Boys, my heart is broken. You're on the Money Manziel MMA channel. We don't have a fight card on Saturday. And as disappointing as that is, at least the card coming after, this past weekend with the Noche card is Carlos Ulberg versus Dominic Reyes. I will say that, bro, I see so many of these pictures where Carlos Ulberg is screaming and doing, dances and shit. Bro, you do not have a single fight where you need to be doing all that. Not one, bro. Decision point fight versus Jan Blachowicz, and then a point fight versus Volkan Ozdemir in the big 2024. We're not moved by Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to be picking Dominic Reyes to win. But more importantly, right, you look at this Perth card, and I don't know if anyone has taken the time out of their day yet to really investigate what is going on this card and who all is here. But I am here to say that we are in trouble. The Noche card was already lacking real star potential, even if it ended up being okay. But man, if you look at the UFC Perth card, the co-main event of the evening is Junior Tafa and Ibo Aslan. Put a hand in the air right now if you have ever legitimately sat down and been excited for a Junior Tafa fight in your life. This guy is 6-4 as a professional MMA fighter. 6-4. I believe you could put a random person who's 250 pounds in a cage, and they could probably go 6-4. That is not a challenging record to get in professional MMA, especially for a guy that used to be a fat Australian kind of Samoan guy at heavyweight, and then decided to cut down and lock in quotations, for light heavyweight just to get submitted by Tuco Tacos. It's just I don't even want to talk about Ibo Aslan yet. We're going to talk about Ibo Aslan in a second. The fact that Junior Tafa is still getting fights in the UFC is unbelievable to me. Look at Junior Tafa's resume here. A submission loss to Tuco Tacos in the big 2025. Are we dead as? 2025, the year of our Lord and Savior. And Junior Tafa is getting submitted. This guy is getting submitted by Tuco, a guy named Tuco in the big. Listen, man, I've already said in the big 2025. But if you put me in a cage with a man who is named Taco Tacos, I am not going to lose that fight. I don't care if he takes me down 5 times and controls me for 14 minutes and 55 seconds of the fight. That's not happening. It's shameful. It's bro. You have that, right? And then you go to Ibo Aslan's record. First of all, finished by Iwan Kutalaba in 2 minutes. Shameful, sad. This guy has the hardest nickname in all of MMA, the Last Ottoman. And the Last Ottoman landed 28 significant strikes in 15 minutes. Do you know the math on that? That means per minute you're landing less than 2 strikes in a fight that was on the feet the entire time. You're telling me you're getting paid. You do a whole 10-week training camp, and you walk in there and versus a guy who's coming off a loss in his debut, you land less than 2 strikes per minute. What are you even doing out there? What is he spending his time doing in the cage where you can only land 28 strikes? It's not like he's being grappled and held down against the cage and, he tried his best, he couldn't finish him, whatever. Bro, he just stared at him the entire time and was shocked when he lost a decision 3-0. Ibo Aslan sucks. This is the co-main event of the evening. We are all hyped for this. We're all going to be jumping at the edge of our seats, really, for Junior Tafa and Ibo Aslan to take place. Shameful, bro. It's just it just makes me upset. God damn, man. The rest of the card, Jack Jenkins. People forget, man. Jack Jenkins, failed prospect. Pretty sure he got submitted in his last fight by Gabriel Santos, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, bro. Jimmy Crute is on the card. Everybody, hold on, bro. Listen, Alex Pereira, you can go, bro. Jimmy Crute is here. 13-4-2, 2 draws. I think his last 4 fights are draw, loss, draw, or some dumb shit like that. Jimmy Crute is terrible. He sucks at everything. Although he did get a win, didn't he? Did he not? He might have submitted somebody in his last fight. I have no memory. I have no memory of whether he actually won his last fight or not. I think he did. Yeah, he did get a submission. I have no clue who he was against, though. Maybe I'm making that shit up. I literally have zero clue if Jimmy Crute won or not. I kind of want to check that. But either way, man, Ivan Urslan literally almost died versus Navajos in his last fight, and dude, the referee had that over. We all knew it. I had that over, so thank God to that referee. Um, but it's just annoying, man, that you have that as like a featured fight, basically. And then we have an all-time crafty veteran matchup between Jake Matthews and Neil Magny. Hold on, everybody. Neil Magny is fighting. And then you have Tom Nolan and Evan Elder. Man, we're fucking hyped for that. I get that it's like an Australia card. You need to put Australians on the bill. Like, I get it, but man, there aren't better Australians. We had to have Steve Urseg fight in August. We couldn't have waited until late September. He had to come back. Um, and versus O'Day Osborne. There are other Australian fighters in the UFC. Quillen Salkill, people like him, bro. We could have turned him around on this card. I think he's from Perth. It's just it's so frustrating, man. And there is one good thing that is coming out of this card, ladies and gentlemen. Neil Magny is in the middle of a title run right now. May God strike me and my future children down right now if Neil Magny does not continue this title run next week. I will put I don't know what I'll put on it, but I'll put something on it that Neil Magny goes out there and gets a win, a crafty win versus Jake Matthews, probably in the clinch. I'll be honest, bro. Literally, if you fight Neil Magny, head coaches should tell you, hey, if you don't clinch up with Neil Magny, you're going to win the fight. It is a 100% guaranteed fight strategy. If you do not clinch with Neil Magny, you win the fight every single time. And for some reason, one out of like every four opponents decides, fuck it, I'm going to clinch with Neil Magny after dominating him, and that's what ends up happening is Neil Magny fucking comes back and wins. It's pretty nuts to think about. Somehow Eluzu Zaleski dos Santos went to a decision with Rinat Fakhretdinov, who just mogged Andreas Gustafsson, but he got finished by Neil Magny. It's a crazy world we live in, but shout out to Neil. Dana gives terrible card. Listen, man, Australia, Canada, and are there any other ones? I feel like Australia and Canada are the main ones that get really bad cards. I think the UFC has to go there because they are contractually obligated to. But Dana legitimately sits down in this matchmaking room and he decides what is the worst possible fight card we can put together for the Australian fans who care about the sport so much. And he does that. Um, the card's probably going to be at an inconvenient time for them too. That's what's even crazier. But that's kind of its own separate issue that we need to deal with in passing with this kid. Yeah, man, it's just I don't know. I have mixed feelings that we're coming off a Noche card with 0 star value. You get a week off and really just get two contender series cards, and then you come right back, and the card we are getting is UFC Perth, which is dog shit. It's a terrible card. There's no point in watching a majority of the fights unless you're incredibly hardcore and just want to be bored out of your mind. There'll probably be like two finishes, one of them a highlight reel, and Dana's gonna like do like an Instagram live, like, yeah, what's the question? Yeah, bro, these are the best fights. Yep, we give Australia the best fights every year. These are badass fights. Jake Matthews and Neil Magny, that's a badass fight. It's just it's a vicious cycle with Dana White. Um, Not all is lost though, because at least the week after that, oh my god, fuck you. This is such a good card, man. I'll talk about it probably later this week because again, we do not have a fight card, so I need to make shit up to talk about. Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira 2, the rematch. I think it is fascinating that Ank is minus 210. I'll talk about that. Marab versus Corey Sandhagen. Marab's gonna mog the shit out of Corey Sandhagen. I like him, but he's not winning. Yuri and Khalil Roundtree is a hell of a fight. I'd be very interested to see how that goes, especially if Khalil employs the game plan he did versus Jamal Hill. Yuri still doesn't know how to check leg kicks. I think it'll be a serious problem. I think Khalil can outclass him for 3 rounds and not finish him. That's what I think is more interesting, and we'll talk about, but we'll come back to that probably tomorrow or the next day. Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Salal, I think, is a way better fight than it looks like on paper. Emmett's a really good anti-grappler, and Zalal is going to have to stand with him. And Zalal lost the final round running away from Calvin Cater. So I think that's a matchup that a lot of people should get more hype for. And then, bro, Abus Magomedov and Joe Pyfer is just a fun fight. Two dudes that like to scrap. Abus is a little chinny, and the cardio, I believe, is still a problem. I don't think it's shown up as of late, but I think it's a bigger problem than people talk about. Joe Pyfer's going to cold him. Easy work. And, I'll give a final kind of summary of the card, like what I believe. Carlos Ulberg, this guy has been on a mission to gaslight the MMA fan base into convincing people that he is not almost 35 years old. This guy in the press conference with Dominic Reyes, oh, I'm a young buck. He's the old man. Brother, you're both going to be 35 at the same time. When you are 35, Dominic Reyes will still be 35. Who are you trying to convince that you're some young prospect in the sport? You're 34 years old. And you got chinned by Kennedy and Zechuku. He just got heel hooked by Walter Walker, bro. Stop trying to lie to us about being a prospect. We all know who you really are. We are very familiar with your game. Dominic Reyes is going to call him. I honestly think Carlos Holberg has taken over the CKB style of being boring and point fighty at range. Dominic Reyes will not let you stay at range. He's going to force you into exchanges. Olberg's going to trust his power too much. And in 5 rounds, Dominic Reyes is going to get him, bro. 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the video. I appreciate all of you for watching. A little short one, we're trying to get back to the consistency around here, but it is what it is. Like, comment, and subscribe down below. I appreciate every single one of you. TikTok is at MoneyManziel MMA. I will see you on the next one. Peace out.